Hi guys, my name is Morgan Kessler and I'm going to be doing my presentation over anxiety and sadness. Here is a table of contents to help all of you understand what I'm going to be talking about. I'm first going to explain the definitions of these two emotions so that everyone has a general understanding of the emotion. Anxiety is defined by Merriam-Webster as being characterized by extreme uneasiness of the mind or brooding of fear. Sadness is defined by Merriam-Webster as being affected by or expressive of grief and or being downcast. Now that you know the basic understanding of the emotions, I'm going to talk a little bit about my personal experience with anxiety. When anxiety moves in, it takes away my ability to focus and function as a normal human being. It breaks up my steadiness of mind, and I then begin to freak out. And it is a slow downward spiral into sadness that sometimes makes me lose my control of my sanity. I am going to use rodeo practice for an example. I have so many goals and so many dreams for myself that sometimes I try way too hard. I'm also a perfectionist. Trying too hard and being a perfectionist is not really a good thing. Because of this, a couple weeks ago I got myself into a jam. I go to work at 6 a.m. and I come back at about 1:30. Then I get dressed to go to practice and I eat a little bit, and I am either at practice from 3 till 7 or 8 or even sometimes longer. Then I go home to eat dinner and do my homework. This particular day at practice was by my definition of a rough one. Nothing I did went right, and because of this I had a horrible practice, which was devastating for me. I messed up the way my horse was working in the box, which is the starting point for my event in rodeo. I stayed in the arena for 7 hours. Given 3 of those hours I was helping my teammates, but for the most part, the other 4 was spent trying to fix myself and my horse. I finally gave up, took care of my horses, and went home. When I got home, I ate some dinner and I called my mom because of how upset I was. When I got off the phone, I was still unhappy, but I was going to make it. I think the biggest reason that this affected me was because of how tired I truly was. I was exhausted. I had been spending over 9 hours of my day working and at the arena practicing. Then another 2 to 3 hours at home doing homework before I could even go to sleep. According to George Miller Beard, exhaustion was overloading millions of America's nervous systems, also called neurasthenia. Neuro stood for nerve, while asthenia stood for weakness, which basically meant that nerves were tired. George Miller Beard was basically talking about the present-day anxiety. He was not totally right because he thought it was due to human spinal centers being overly tired, when in actuality it is a mental disease. However, I personally believe that he is onto something with exhaustion being a cause of anxiety. When I begin to think about the times when I just could not overcome my anxiety, almost all of them were because I was physically and mentally exhausted. So now let's take a closer look at anxiety. Anxiety can show up in many different forms. However, it is often connected with some form of depression. Occasionally, it's depression causing the anxiety, but it can also be anxiety causing the depression. There is also seasonal depression, general anxiety disorder, panic attacks, many different phobias, OCD, and PTSD. All of these different types of anxieties are diseases where people worry too much about one particular thing. They worry themselves until they are sick. Then, when the body can no longer take the stress, it goes into a depression. There are many reasons as to why people develop anxiety. However, first, from a psychological standpoint, stress is why. According to Wendy Green, how much stress we experience and how we deal with it is a factor, because stress reduces neurotransmitters in the brain, causing anxiety and low mood. She also said that many psychologists also believe that what our view is on ourselves and other events can help determine whether we suffer from anxiety or not. Both of these aspects from Wendy Green coincide with my personal struggle with anxiety. Stress and the view of myself will always be something that I struggle to overcome, whether it be in the arena, the classroom, my career, whatever. However, I am working on it and it is getting better. So next, Lastly, I'm going to talk a little bit about anxiety as it is shown through psychology and how to help overcome it. As I mentioned before, stress is a way for our bodies to deal with challenges that we maybe do not know how to handle. Fear is also a defense mode that our bodies use to try and deal with challenges in life. Via Chaslev says that anxiety is yet another defense mechanism, but is different from fear because it is a set of emotional and somatic reactions to a future threat that may or may not happen. Being worried about something is really not that odd of a reaction for a human being. However, it becomes a problem when you worry about it every day for 6 months or more. This type of anxiety will make it hard to continue succeeding in life, whether it be waking up in the morning. It can literally overtake your whole life. It makes people irritable as well as have a lack of concentration. Many parts of their brain affect the way a person feels. However, the amygdala is a central part of the brain that controls the forming of fear and anxiety. It is also in tune with the other parts of the brain that are helping fight off all the negativities in life. Vyacheslav also says that a significant level of activity is seen in the amygdala, especially when a person is told to focus on his or her stress. In conclusion, anxiety can be brought on a couple of different ways. Anxiety disorders can be passed down through generations, so from like your grandpa or your great-grandpa all the way down into you. Another way it can be developed is by the way a child is raised and the amount of exposure he or she has to traumatic life situations. But regardless of how it was started, it's still not an easy thing to overcome, and it probably never will be. Knowing that it will not be easy should not take the sanguine of recovery away from anybody, because it is possible and usually it is probable. In severe cases, it may never be cured, but there are ways to get help, such as cognitive behavioral therapy, before it ruins your life and takes away people's choices of being happy. These are my works cited. Thanks for listening, guys.